What's going on, everybody? My name is Dante Pittman, and welcome to episode 3 of Gameshow Speak Podcast. As I said, I'm your host, Dante Pittman, as always, and I have someone special with me to my excuse me, to my right. Oh, come on, you know what? From Vermont, it's Cody Smart.
Mm.
I'm trying to. Hey, Cody,
Oh, hello, Dante.
how are you?
Uh, I'm alright, kind of drowsy. But
Uh, I,
besides that, I'm at least awake, as you can tell.
yeah, well, I can see. Anyway, yes. If you're wondering why Michael's not here, he's on vacation. So we wish him and his family a safe vacation. Hope he stays safe. Anyway, all right, we got some topics here. Well, I originally tried to do this, but I didn't promote it properly, so I deleted the original video. All right. Anyway, we got our topics here. We got our thoughts on Celebrity Jeopardy coming back for the first time since 2015. On thoughts on ABC's game shows returning to Sunday nights. Our thoughts on two new game shows coming to NBC. And our thoughts on pulling a Mike Larson on Classic Concentration. And I'm actually going to give my thoughts on the first episode of Don't Forget the Lyrics, on the new Don't Forget the Lyrics. All right, so let's start with the first topic. Cody, what are your thoughts on Celebrity Jeopardy coming back for the first time since 2015?
Well, I mean, I really never had a chance to read any articles related to it, so unfortunately, when I was asked about this around 8 hours ago or so before the broadcast, like, okay, I'm happy to join. I'll see if I have time. So, unfortunately, I did not study in any of these topics. But here's something I will be able to say here.
Go
So, I
ahead.
know Jeopardy has been trying to promote their actual production, their actual show, off from the Alex Trebek stage, the Sony network, to other TV channels besides those like NBC or CBS, something like that. To promote those like ABC and Fox. So, I mean, it's a little surprising that they haven't gone ahead with doing this extension with ABC, because them and NBC all like the current host, man, B. Alec over there. And I know they haven't had Jennings as much lately, especially with a concern that he hasn't been on the chase this season. So I'm thinking Ken Jennings should be the host on this one, just to give him a gig, a full-time gig similar to B. Alec. But we'll have to wait and see what Fox does when it comes to Jeopardy's concerned. See if they can attract any Fox viewers to increase the viewership for Jeopardy all around.
Makes sense. I would agree on that. All right. I'll, all right. I'll be right back. Cody, you're in charge, of course. I'm gonna
Hmm.
eat some dinner.
Dinner, okay. Well, okay, so while we are here, I'll continue on what I do think about Celebrity Jeopardy, especially having it being on Fox. Now, it may come to a bit of a surprise that I actually somehow managed to not really watch Celebrity Jeopardy at all. I mean, I understand that it was like less than 10 years ago, a bit more recent, so you probably expect people like me to remember it. Unfortunately, I don't. And it's a little bit of a shocker to say that I've never watched Jeopardy outside of the typical NBC channels at all. I don't think I've never seen an episode on ABC, especially when they're doing their Greatest of All Time tournament or their most recent college tournament that they decided to come back in a way, seriously extend the college tournament for certain. But I do feel like with this whole extension right over to Fox, bringing one of the most popular game shows that not even Price is Right is even thinking about doing
All right, I'm back.
is
Sorry. It's back. I'm sorry. Dinner's almost done. Just get mine. Go ahead, Cody. Continue.
all right. Yeah, I mean, as I said there, like Japanese expansions, it's just something that one of the most popular game shows is doing that even a Price is Right is not doing. I understand they got their nighttime spectacular and stuff like that over with CBS now, but when it comes to big industries, you really gotta go try to attract multiple viewers. I mean, multiple channels worth of viewers. I mean, especially for those that watch Animation Domination or any of those new dramas, anything like that. So I can certainly understand where they're coming from with trying to extend to a third channel. Yes, you heard that's right. Third channel for Jeopardy.
Wow. Okay.
It is really impressive out there.
It is.
So, so
impressive.
we do talk about here about not only NBC's Jeopardy. Speaking of NBC, they say there's 2 new game shows coming over to NBC.
Yes, The
Now,
Wheel and $1 Million Island.
oh, okay. I have never heard of those 2 ever. I don't think they are rebooted. I think these are like new conceptual game shows, according to my
Yes.
concern.
Yes.
Yes, so I want to say I may have heard something about the $1 Million one, kind of. I mean, I'm not way too familiar with it.
Mm. So I've heard of The Wheel, but I've never heard of $1 Million Island. If anything, for me, I thought $1 Million Island was trying to be like a Survivor. Cody?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was looking things up here. I want to make sure I know what I was talking about, and I kind of sworn that I was talking while I was looking this up. Turns out it did not take my perception. Now let's hope it does. Okay, so here's what they say for The Wheel. They say for the main game, according to Wikipedia, yes, I'm reading this off of Wikipedia, the source that says The Wheel, because it is broadcasted on BBC, created by Mike McIntyre. So, the main game, it says this 7 celebrities, each designated as an expert in a different subject. So, when I see this first part of the sentence already, it kind of reminds me of Trivial Pursuit. It kind of does. But later on, it does say here sets and chairs mounted on the outer edge of a 13-meter wide wheel on the main stage. They face and toward the center, below which is the secondary stage where 3 contestants sit in chairs in the smaller wheel. Okay, now after reading this first part, this kind of gets me confused because it's almost like The Weakest Link, except they do it in 2 different levels. What? Yeah, that is kind of confusing here as of right now. But does say here, in each round, the contestant chooses a subject. The seat of whose expert lights up gold is also an expert to, by quote, shut down the one they believe is least likely to know about it, who seats up red. The wheel is then spun to choose an expert at random. If it does not stop on the shutdown one, the host asks a question with 4 multiple choice answers. So kind of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in a way.
Yeah.
The contestant may discuss it with the expert before answering. A correct response adds $10,000 to the bank if the subject expert was spun, or $3,000. Well, it says pounds, not dollars. Otherwise. If the contestant misses a question or spins an expert who has been shut down, their turn ends and they are lowered back onto the smaller wheel, which is spun to choose a new contestant. Oh, yeah. You know, there is some sort of process that is very similar to this one, and that's the Australian show, or at least I see it in Australia, Hot Seat.
Yeah. Millionaire Hot Seat.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. But here's this. Here's something they call the money spinner over here. Introduced in the second series, this round is played after the third question as a way to increase the bank. The host asks a question which at least 7 answers, e.g., signs of a zodiac that contain the letter A, and the wheel begins to turn slowly through one complete rotation. Ooh. Now, I don't know how this wheel is going to be set up just yet, but according to my concern, if they're sitting on the chair, I almost thought about Russian roulette, but I was like, wait a minute, they're sitting on chairs with this huge wheel. So everyone's going to be as dizzy as those you see on Wipeout. Each expert must give an answer as they move past the point. If the bank increases by 1,000 pounds for each correct answer, a further 3,000 pounds is added if all 7 respond correctly, for a potential total of increase of 10,000 pounds. Okay. Now, if any expert gives an incorrect answer or fails to respond, the round ends immediately. The host announces the subject for the question at the start of this round. The contestant decides which expert will answer first. Okay. Now, for the final, here's what this would say. The experts are ranked by how many questions they have answered correctly during the game. The contestant may choose the best, fourth best, or worst performer to assist them. These choices, respectively, set to the prize of 50%, 100%, or 200% of the bank total. That's really interesting how they seem like, okay, if you choose the best person, you're playing the safest. But they don't even consider who was like the second best, third best, or second worst, third worst. According to my concern, it just seems like whoever answers in the middle, whoever plays in the middle in this game, it's like, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're going to be sharing with a contestant tonight. Well, I mean, I don't know what you think of this process here, Dante, since you're the main host of this.
Yes. Yeah, it gives me like both a combination of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Russian Roulette, and Lincoln Link kind of vibes.
Yeah, it says here the wheel was spun to choose one of the 4 new subjects at random, after which the host asks a question. The contestant may discuss it with the chosen expert for 30 seconds before logging in the response.
I know, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we already. But it looks very interesting to me. Also, what do you think about $1 Million Island?
$1 Million Island. I mean, I'll go take a look at.
Yeah, go ahead and take a look at it.
Or talk about this. I do not think it's anything similar to Survivor or anything of that sort, but I can take a look at this here. It does say 100 strangers have to survive on a desert island for 2 months to have a chance at winning 1 million euros in prize money, but of course they are extending it over to NBC. And yes, as if you can't get enough of Survivor. Yep, this is definitely like Survivor, except they're making it from vibes from the movie The Circle. I don't get it. It's named Survivor with the movie The Circle, I swear. This new series is described as a high-stakes social experiment. Are you sure this is Survivor? Hello? NBC, I think CBS wants to talk to you.
Yes, yes. It's kind of like Survivor.
Social experiment. Wait a minute, I already read about that.
So, I don't know how that will work, in my view, because it kind of gives me like Survivor vibes. But let's see what it turns out. Anyway, that's enough for that.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look here.
So, what are your thoughts on?
Because it does say here what John playing was.
All right, the host is. The host name is Dennis van der Gees. Yeah, I don't know you look at that one, but
Never heard of this individual, so I'm
yeah,
probably just gonna give him a random chance. Throw my shot in the dark. Yes, I'm throwing a Survivor reference on this one for those who have watched 41 or 42, like me. Throw my shot in the dark and see how this goes in terms of production is concerned.
yeah, yeah. Also, what do you think about? What are your thoughts on ABC's game shows returning to Sunday nights?
Sunday nights. Now that's really interesting to me. But from what I've heard, I do know that they had to redo new shows. And they had to cancel a bunch of like we kind of knew Match Game was going to get canceled, but who would have thought shows like Card Sharks was going to get canceled of all things?
Yeah, I was
But game shows
shocked
they
too.
did keep. Game shows they did keep did include Press Your Luck, $100,000 Pyramid, somehow Celebrity Family Feud, and I do not know the last one. I don't know the last one that got renewed.
To tell the truth,
Oh, that's what it probably was. Maybe it was probably that, or it was something else. But ABC's game shows returning to Sundays in terms of where the summer game shows are concerned. I mean, I can kind of understand that, only for the concern that I know they've done it for the Chase and for a couple other game shows back in the winter and in the spring. But I didn't, okay. What I should say is, if I was being like a real TV analyst, I would say, yeah, should have expected it and not have expected it at the same time. Because, ABC Summers of Games is like a real way to try to compete with those who aren't really a fan of Big Brother, for example. I mean, I can go talk about Big Brother, especially years from now, but this is not what we're doing today. Oh, we're going to skip through that for now.
yes,
But I mean, I can understand why they can try to put it into Sundays, and at the same time, I don't. Let's first go by why I don't. The reason why I don't is because of my concern that if you're trying to decrease the amount of days or the amount of popularity that the summer game shows would get, I would be heavily concerned for the future that they may hold for a lot of these shows. But if I was going to think of a show that would most likely survive through the schedule change, surprisingly, I say Celebrity Family Feud. I'm sorry, but if they somehow manage to get past through 8 seasons, which is longer than any other game show that I see from ABC now, I'm afraid that some of these other game shows, like $100,000 Pyramid and Pressure Luck, might be in a bit on the downside where this is concerning. Because on Sundays, especially during the summer, I know the USFL will have their playoffs, and pretty soon NASCAR is going to be on NBCSN and stuff like that. You got to try to compete with the viewership here. If you cannot compete with this viewership of the USFL playoffs, or especially when NASCAR comes around, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And you're asking for a lot of competition on one day of the week where other sports are actually being broadcasted. So that's basically a part of why I don't really understand. But here's where I do understand why they're making this change. I understand because I know they had winter game shows and spring game shows, like I believe Weakest Link, if I'm correct, but if not, I know at least The Chase. And shows like that being on Sundays on ABC would actually help them in a way. Because eventually, what they can do is they can have certain game shows on certain times of the year. It could open up the possibility of seeing a new show or a current show that's being transferred over to the fall. Like if there's any game shows for ABC that's currently at a postponed or something like that, there's a legitimate reason. It's because they're moving it to the fall. And here's something I'm going to say about ABC game shows here. You do remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right?
Yes.
They ran for 2 seasons. We really never had a confirmation if they were pulling the plug on it or not. But I really do think that if they did, that would not have been one of the wisest of moves. But
Yeah.
if they did not pull the plug on it yet, don't be surprised if Jimmy Kimmel comes back from Millionaire this fall. If they go at the rate where I'm thinking it's going.
But then who would be the host of Millionaire if Jim Kimmel's not available at the time?
Yeah, that's a huge question. I feel like that'd be kind of hard to search for because it'd be really hard for somebody to try to come even close to match the charm of Regis Philbin. And Jimmy Kimmel seemed kind of fitting-ish from what I saw.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was a good host, but I feel like he was anticlimactic at some point.
Oh, I kind of get it. I mean, like someone who lacks the suspense for a high suspense game show.
Yeah.
That is where I can understand. But at the same time, I know game shows keep on trying to bring in a rise of celebrity game show hosts and not really have game show hosts that are there for experience per se.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I had to think of somebody who had to deal with climactic stuff, I would take a look at game shows in the past that had a huge expectation of having conflict come into play or anything being very climactic. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a trivia show at all. It can just be any type of game show. There are a couple of lesser known hosts out there that I think may or may not be more fitting for that job. The game show hosts that have hosted the show before that, based off of his experience for this one particular show, might be okay to do Millionaire, or at least can manage to hold up with the climactic events more than Jimmy Kimmel. This may come to a surprise to you, but I'm thinking about Mark Wahlberg.
Makes sense. But I would rather go with
yeah, I mean, if you don't know who Mark Wahlberg is in terms of where game shows are concerned, there is one controversial. Tom Newton. I mean, I haven't really heard of Newton in a long time, to be honest with you. I cannot remember the last time he actually hosted a show.
I think the last time he hosted the show was The Price is Like Live.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking Whammy, but.
But anyway, we gotta get back on topic here. Whew.
Yeah.
What if somebody pulling a Michael Larson on Classic Concentration?
I have not seen this yet. And out of all the clips that I have seen for Classic Concentration, which is not many, I have never seen anyone getting caught doing anything controversial in that classic game show. One of the only ways I can see someone pulling off a Michael Larson and Classic Concentration is if, for whatever reason, they manage to see the picture in advance and be able to solve the puzzle within 1 or 2 squares. I'm just going to be flat out honest there. I feel like in that area of expertise, I don't know if you may have any idea about the certain events that happen in that show, but I feel like this would be a long time ago.
'80s. I think we've come to the conclusion now that if something was computerized random in the 80s, that it wasn't randomized at all. We saw that infamous on Pressure Luck, but now it's coming out that classic concentration was the same. You could game the game to win a car. Oh, hello. Hi, Survival. How are you?
Oh, yes,
Go
Survivor
ahead.
has come into the chat. Maybe Survival may or may not know about this whole classic concentration thing, since I'm not really an
All
expert
right,
in
I'll be right
classic game
back.
shows.
I guess dinner is done. So you'll be in charge, of course.
All right, of course. So, all right, so looking over here, we do see that, yeah, we already covered a lot of these. So, yeah, it looks like we have went over basically all in this agenda here for the third episode of the podcast. But while he's doing dinner, I may as well just cover the rest of the show. I mean, if you have any questions about related to the agenda that we've had over here, I may as well go and review what we've discussed about over this past half hour. So the first thing we brought up was Celebrity Jeopardy coming back for the first time since 2015. What are our thoughts about it? What are the expectations? How do we think Jeopardy's going to handle with a third TV channel? Yes, you heard me right. Again. Yes, I know. A lot of episodes on this third TV channel. Comes to prove how successful that show is. We talked about the ABC game shows returning to Sunday nights, more in general instead of the specifics. But we did analyze about it a little bit due to what shows are coming back, which of them got canceled, and all that. We talked about the two new game shows that are coming to NBC, which includes The Wheel and $1 Million Island. In which I didn't have too much time to take a look at it. What I know is each person that's selected to go to $1 Million Island out of the 100 people, they start off with one $10,000 bracelet. So kind of like Monopoly currency, if you ask me. And then our thoughts on the Michael Larson, someone pulling the Michael Larson on classic concentration. So those are all the topics that we had here today. If you have any questions on related to these topics here, while Dante is off, please let us know in the chat, in the comments. Maybe we'll be able to answer those questions while Dante is eating. Otherwise, once we get back, we will more likely wrap this up. Unless any more is on the agenda that I don't know about. So, I don't know if there's any Survivor fans out there, but I just most recently watched the second to last episode of Survivor 42. And for anybody out there, I want to ask, how do you feel about the Survivor finale? How do you feel about any of the people that remain in the game? In case you want to know, as apparently we got a second Dante Petman in the call now. That's quite unexpected. But before Dante comes back, I am going to go over the people who have made it to the Survivor 42 finale and how all of them may fare. So for those who didn't know, at the end of the last episode, if you haven't seen it, this is spoilers, but tomorrow night's the finale. Let's be fair about this. But for a spoiler alert, for Final Six, Lindsay ends up winning the immunity challenge over Jonathan by barely. That looked like at first that Jonathan was going to be the one to go home. But after Omar giving back Mike the immunity idol that Mike originally did have before giving it back to Omar at the Final 7 Tribal Council, the target was originally going to be someone either like Lindsay or someone of that sort. But it appeared that the target then came to possibly Jonathan, but eventually got distracted for it to go between Omar and Romeo. And the final 6 was basically looking at 3 different people to vote out. And nobody at the supermajority. But keep in mind the following. Going into the final 6 tribal council, we have Lindsay, who had to play her immunity idol. And because of that, players like Jonathan and Mike were thinking that, hey, Lindsay's just going to give her idol to Omar. Omar would be safe. So Jonathan and Mike came up with the idea to voting Romeo. Lindsay and Omar thought about voting Jonathan. Romeo was originally stuck with that idea, and we were going to have 3 votes against Jonathan. But Marianne came up with the idea after having a deal with Mike, where Mike would give Marianne an immunity idol at Final 5, even though Marianne already has one found in the middle of Merge. Marianne also has something called an extra vote that she did found as an advantage early on in the game, and it was her last round to use it. So before Tribal Council, Marianne first goes to Romeo about voting out Omar, even though I really felt like it was a huge risk. It was a huge risk. But early on, after the immunity challenge, Lindsay did say to Omar that she was not playing her hidden immunity idol. Then, after Marianne talked to Romeo, and Romeo decided to swap his vote from Jonathan to Omar, Marianne goes to Mike and Jonathan about voting Omar, but then, of course, with Mike and Jonathan worried about them worried about Omar being safe, and the vote ended up being on Jonathan or possibly even Mike. Marianne felt like she wasn't convincing all of the guys, as in Romeo plus Jonathan and Mike, to vote out Omar. She felt like she was in trouble. And as a result, in the tribal council, going into my mind, I was thinking it was either going to be a 4-2-1 vote, or it was either going to be a 3-2-2 vote. It turned out to be a 3-2-2 vote. It was an expected vote, except Marianne used her extra vote. Therefore, Marianne set out the vote out for Omar. And not many people have expected that concern to happen, to where Marianne used her power of the extra vote that it was her last opportunity to use to take out Omar. And she has a hidden immunity idol, so if anyone was to try to target her at Final 5, well, guess what? She's off to Final 4. It doesn't even matter for her. So going into Final 5, you have Marianne, who again has a hidden immunity idol, Mike, who also has a hidden immunity idol, and Omar made a game-costing mistake by giving Mike back the immunity idol. Otherwise, if I would have made a solid bet with you, Omar would have been safe, and we would have had a to-be-continue screen through the episode, and we'd have a revote where I'd be confident that Jonathan would be sent home, unless we went for rocks, which I'm not going to talk about that. We got, let me see, I already went over 2. We got Lindsay, who won the most recent immunity, and remember this, her advantage, her amulet, gone. It is gone. It is expired. She is in danger. Jonathan, who did receive votes on top of Romeo, neither of them have power. But Jonathan has been winning the most amount of immunities lately, but hasn't really made a good move in Tribal Council this season. So entering Final 5. You did hear Jeff Probst did say to all of them that they are going to another camp to spend their final days of their journey that will have one of the 5 of them win $1 million by the decision of their peers. Now, it looks like in the trailer that Romeo did receive something that to me looks like an amulet from early on in the season, because it looks like a colored necklace that I think you would see from an amulet of sorts. So I feel like what might have happened is either Lindsay found the final immunity idol in that camp as seen and heard in the trailer, or Lindsay wanted to fake out Romeo. I don't think that'd be a likely possibility unless people started to know that Mike had an immunity idol. So here's what I'm thinking in terms of where the situation's concerned. Now, it's been a long time that Jonathan should be voted out. And I really understand that because there's only 2 immunity challenges left until we get the final tribal council. But what I feel like the current contestants, the current people out there are not being concerned about is the likelihood of him winning the game. Remember, we did have somebody that was as physically strong as Jonathan last season. I can't remember his name. But he barely got a single vote in Final Tribal Council, which to me was kind of odd because I expected him to get a couple of votes, if not possibly at least get second place. So here's what I think will happen. At Final 5, we know Mike and Marianne would be able to use their immunity idols whenever they wish, unless Mike continues to go with his mind that he thinks Marianne never has an idol. But he needs to do what he needs to protect his own game, and I don't think Mike will make that horrible mistake. And speaking of mistakes, I'm going to talk about Lindsay a little later. But I'm thinking Lindsay might have found that final idol. Romeo will feel like he's safe. Mike and Marianne, regardless, will play their immunity on, so I don't think they're going to go that tough in the next immunity challenge. I would not think. And it's going to go between Jonathan and Lindsay. Now, knowing how the last time Jonathan lost an immunity challenge, I won't be surprised if Jonathan wins again. I think he will win the final 5 immunity challenge. He goes to final 4. Easy peasy. Then here's where Tribal will come into play. Even though I think at one point Marianne did say that they need to get rid of Jonathan, not at Final 5. So at Tribal Council, people are going to think about who they want to vote out. And at this point, I think a lot of them are pointing at either him or Mike, when they should really be considering Marianne. I mean, Marianne just set up the most recent vote out, while Lindsay made a horrible mistake by not using her amulet to save Omar. Lindsay opened the door for Marianne to make a huge move. And if Marianne goes to Final 3 with Lindsay, there's a huge chance that Marianne wins the game. I'm going to tell you that right now. Marianne has a huge shot in winning the game, especially if Lindsay sits next to her. Because the jury's going to think, wow, one of the finalists opened the door for another one. That's the worst mistake in the game. Well, here's what I think is going to happen. They're going to gun for Mike. Mike plays his own immunity idol. And will probably feel bad about not playing on Marianne. Marianne will stand up. She plays her immunity idol. She's safe. And then I feel like they'll pressure Lindsay to get up. Plays the final immunity idol. And you know what they say on baseball? For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out, Romeo. Why? Because if I'm not a Survivor historian out here, so I may get this completely wrong, but I think this will be the first time in Survivor history that somebody would be out by default. No votes, no more advantages. Romeo is out of the game. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think anybody would vote for Romeo unless if it's a backup plan now these days. But I do think that due to all of the power that remains out of the entire tribe now, Romeo might be the only powerless player left. And as a result, Romeo gets out. He will be in 5th place. He will be the next member of the jury. Here we move on to Final Four. Final Four, I do think it's going to be another type of challenge instead of these endurance challenges that Jeff keeps on hosting all the time. And in this situation, I do think Lindsay will win the final immunity challenge. Lindsay will get her 3rd immunity win, in which I understand if that's anticlimactic for you all, but Lindsay and Jonathan has been really dominant in these challenges, and any other challenge threat has been eliminated now. So who else? Well, Lindsay would earn her spot in Final Tribal Council in Final 3. I think nobody is going to suspect Marianne as a threat as long as Jonathan or Mike is out there. So I'm thinking Lindsay would bring Marianne the Final Tribal Council, make yet another mistake on underestimating a certain player and not being able to adapt in a situational basis, and Jonathan and Mike would compete against each other in the fire making challenge. If it's anything like we've seen in Survivor 41. As a result, I do think that Mike would win. Jonathan has been proven that he isn't that great when it comes to challenges that are not endurance. I mean, he is kind of strong when it comes to physical challenges, but his consistency has not been great, and he has actually been weakened ever since the start of Merge. And we all know that power that he had in 7 wasn't going to last forever. So that's why I have Jonathan as the final member of the jury, which means it comes down to Lindsay, Mike, and Marianne. Now, I do understand that all 3 finalists would have played a catalyst and taken out some huge players in the game. I mean, you saw how Lindsay took out High. You saw how Mike took out... Wait a minute. I think I got the wrong people. Maybe I don't. Who knows? I believe Lindsay was the one that played catalyst.
All right, I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, so you did see how Lindsay was a catalyst to take out, I believe it was High. Maybe Mike was a little bit behind it too, but I feel like it was at least began with Lindsay. We saw how Mike played catalyst and taken out Drea. I mean, he was the one that basically secretly sabotaged Drea, and Lindsay was pretty much the assist on that concern. After Drea got taken out, Marianne ends up playing catalyst by playing her extra vote and then taking out Omar. So it comes to make you think, who's going to play catalyst next here in the finale? But frankly, if I had to speak an opinion for all, I would say that for anyone who made a game-ending error entering the finale, as I said before, it's Lindsay. I mean, Lindsay did tell Omar that she wasn't playing her amulet, but let me tell you this. There were 2 people that made horrible mistakes at Final 6. Omar was one of them. Oh, what's up?
Okay.
Oh, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm back, but I believe. So what were you talking about, man? Well, I was going.
Well, I was talking about one thing I really know a whole bunch about because tomorrow night is the finale for Survivor 42.
Yeah.
So I was going over the rundown in case people did miss the most recent episode I did watch this morning, and
Oh, okay.
about how I think the season 42 finale is going to work out. Now, yeah, I'm in the middle of the analysis and where I think the final vote is going to come into play. I do think that the jury is going to see Marianne as the most likely player to win. Nobody has suspected her at all ever since Merge began. Because, I mean, well, we were at pre merge, well, all these tribes of six were originally set up. Marianne was a common target. But they said it was
Uh,
basically because of her personality being a bit too exciting or something like that, or maybe a bit too paranoid. But her game certainly took a shape for the better at Merge. She found Immunity Idol, and something tells me she plays it in the final five to keep herself safe just in case any huge blindside happens again. And I do feel like it's a close vote between Mike and Marianne, but I do think we're going to see a 4-3-1 final vote because I do think Lindsay does deserve a vote, even though she made a game ending error most recently. I do feel like she should get one vote, just one, for pretty much playing Catalyst and taking out High and trying to gain power in her amulet with Drea, but also having the assist and betraying Drea to upgrade the power of her amulet a second time in 2 episodes. But as a final result, here's where I think it's going to go, regardless to which juror vote to. Lindsay with one vote. Mike, I think, will have 3 votes, which will result in Marianne winning Survivor 42 with 4 votes. So, if I have something to say to the final five, I say watch out for Marianne. You might not be able to get her in the final five, but put her in fire making in final four. Don't take her out there. She has a really good shot in winning the game. I think she has a story to
okay.
tell that nobody has
Yep.
been able to catch.
Yep. And all right, Cody. All right, that was great. You did a good job taking over where I was going. But now, I guess we. All right, but before we head off, before we end this, I'm gonna give my review of the first episode of the new "Don't Forget the Lyrics" on Hulu. I will. I will put a spoiler alert. Spoilers are warned. Spoilers are here, so be warned. Okay, so my thoughts on this. Okay, I can see the first episode. I think it was off to a great start. Great start. Fletch did a fantastic job. Fantastic. He was. He did a fantastic job all the way through. I mean, he was on a roll. No one could stop him until that one song by the Rolling Stones caught him. He can't get no satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. He was doing a fantastic job. And I'm glad he's taking home $150,000. That's a lot of money. Congratulations to him. Congratulations. As for Niecy Nash, I think she's doing great as host. I mean, yes, I'll miss Wayne Brady and Mark McGrath, but Niecy Nash is taking the role very well. Yeah, I like how it's like how it's still the same. Love it stayed the same. It's well done. I've liked it. So overall, this might be a very good first step. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for this. So yeah, I think we're gonna raise up here. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry I had to go eat dinner, but I came back now, and that's all that matters. But yeah, that's what's. But yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this up. Hey Cody,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it's time to wrap this up?
Yeah, I do think it's around time to wrap. I mean, we almost reached an hour.
Yeah, we only reached an hour, and well, that's gonna be it for this episode of the Game Show Speed Podcast. If you guys like this episode, please give it a like, comment, subscribe, and get notified every time I upload a new video when I go live. Also, thank you, Cody Smart, for being out here.
You are certainly welcome. Thank you for having me over.
Yeah. And of course, Survival for chatting here in the comment section. Thank you, Survival. And also, Michael, if you're watching this, I think we did a good job on this. And and yeah, that's gonna be it. And I will see you guys next time for another episode of the Game Show Speed Podcast. But until then, good night.